Hey everyone, welcome back. I have some Dollar Tree Halloween DIYs for you today. If you're new here, you like home decor, DIYs on a budget, stick around by hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications. All right, let's not waste any more time and get into these DIYs. This first DIY was inspired by these fogging skulls I saw at Spirit Halloween. So I decided to go to Dollar Tree and get 11 of their plastic skulls. And I'm just going to cut the backs of their heads off. I just used an X-Acto knife to do this. You want to be careful when you're doing it. Make sure you're cutting away from yourself and also that your fingers and everything are out of the way. The skulls are pretty easy to cut through except for the top part of them. They're a little bit thicker than the bottom part of the skulls, so I don't know why, but they are. So just be careful. But I cut the backs out of all 11 of the skull heads. Once I did that, I came back and took 2 of the skull heads, and I'm going to cut through the mouth, separating the teeth, so that way I cut those bottom teeth off and technically the jaw off of 2 of these skulls. You can cut as many as you want, but I just went ahead and cut 2, and I figured when I was going back to do everything, I could cut more if I needed to, but 2 worked out perfectly for me. So I cut the bottom teeth off all the way through the back. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a paddle attachment drill bit that was 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to drill into each of the eye holes. And then I took a smaller drill bit, which I believe was 5/8 of an inch, and I drilled through the nose. I didn't like just having the one circular hole through the nose, so I went ahead with my X-Acto knife, and after I drilled the nose hole, I came around and refined it. Once I got the eyes and the nose, the backs of the heads cut off, and the bottom of the teeth cut off, I was ready to put everything together. And this was probably the most tricky part of all of it because I wanted it to look a certain way, but also make sure that everything, the back of the head was open enough because I'm going to be putting a fog machine in this. So I kind of just played around with it. I started off with 3 of the regular size skulls. I just hot glued everything together, and I just maneuvered the skulls around until I got the placement of the way I wanted it, and then I hot glued them into place. I did the 3 regular skulls on the bottom, and then I took a skull that I cut the teeth off of and used that on top of the 2 skulls, and then I did another regular skull, and then I wanted to make sure that this was balanced also so that way it didn't tip over. So I ended up adding another regular skull on the bottom, kind of sideways, and then I was able to continue building up those skulls. I took the other half skull, or one that without the teeth, and I placed that at the top, and then I did see that it was starting to tip some more, so I went ahead and took another full skull and put that on the bottom kind of back side of that first skull, just making sure that I'm not covering up the backs of their heads, and I'm leaving kind of this hole in the bottom. And then I took the rest of the skulls and I just placed them on top where I thought they fit the best, and hot gluing them into place as I went. This is what it looked like after I got everything hot glued into place. I thought it looked amazing. This was exactly how I wanted it. Again, I just played around with it, so there's no perfect way of doing it. And then I wanted to make the skulls look a little more aged. So I took some just brown acrylic paint and I mixed it with some water. And then I took a sponge brush and I wiped it all over the skulls. And I let it sit for like a minute or so while I was doing another skull. And then I just kind of like wiped all of that paint off. So you could do this with stain as well if you didn't have brown paint available, but this is what I had available and it worked out perfectly. So I just did this around all of the skulls, and again, I just made sure that I wiped all of the excess off, and it just leaves that perfect brown haze with every skull, so that way it just looks more old and weathered and worn, and it just doesn't look like that plasticky look. And then the last thing I really had to do with this was add some orange lights. So these are battery operated orange lights from Dollar Tree, and they are, I think, 10 lights in a strand. So it worked out almost perfectly. I just took one light and hot glued it into each of the skulls all the way around. The bottom middle skull doesn't technically have a light, but I still think it worked out perfectly. I love how this turned out. I put my fog machine behind it. Even if you didn't have a fog machine, I think it is still a perfect piece of spooky Halloween decor for the season. This next Halloween DIY, I'm going to use one of these candles from Dollar Tree. This is a cashmere vanilla scent. You can use whatever scent you like from Dollar Tree. I just picked up this one because it was a circular base, and I glued the lid to the bottom of the candle. And now I'm going to use this skeleton garland. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the little tops on their heads that hold the twine on, and cut the twine off, and I'm going to use 3 of the skeletons. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to make sure that the skeleton's arms are lifted up, and then I just spread out the legs around the candle base, and then I'm going to hot glue the chest of the skeleton to the candle. Then I went ahead and hot glued the ankles of the skeleton around the candle, and then I hot glued the hands around the top of the candle. And next I'm going to add the second skeleton. I'm just going to meet that with the first skeleton's feet and hot glue again the chest, the feet, and the hands down. Now the third skeleton didn't fit as well as I had hoped, but I did make it work. I just hot glued the feet together and kind of maneuvered them a little bit so that way they would fit around, and then hot glued the chest, and then the hands overlapped the other skeletons. And then I painted this with this shiny metallic silver spray paint all over. I made sure the candle was covered up on top, and this is how it turned out. I think it's really pretty and chic for Halloween. It's perfect. I wish I had some little like witches hats to put on the skeletons because I think that would be really cool too. For this DIY, I'm going to use a pack of these round doilies from Dollar Tree, and I am going to go ahead and make a paper mache paste. So for my paste, I just mixed 1 cup of flour to 2 cups of water, and then I did add a dash of cinnamon in hopes to make it smell more fall-like. It didn't really work, but that's okay. And also you can add a dash of salt to help, I guess, keep mold or mildew or whatever down from your paper mache products, but I forgot to do that. Then I mixed everything together really good, and for my molds, I'm basically going to use candlesticks holders and then whatever else I can find. The first one, for the small one, I used a little eyeball from Dollar Tree, and then I used a skull head from Dollar Tree, and then I used a medium size and a big size styrofoam balls for the other 2. And then I wrapped each one of them in some plastic wrap to cover them up. Now I'm going to go ahead and dip my doilies into the paper mache paste. I started off with 1 doily, and they are very fragile when you spread the doilies out. So I ended up combining the doilies together and make like 2, and then dipping them into the paper mache paste and then draping them around the molds. So the small one was the easiest one to do. I just draped everything around there, and then the second to smallest one was really easy to do. The third one got a little bit more harder. And the fourth one, the big one, that one just kind of fell apart. And I used too many doilies also. So it was just a little bit more difficult just because the paper doilies started falling apart and they got heavy with the paste. But I mean, I still was able to do it, but I would have done it a little bit better. Anyways, I let these dry out in the sun for a while because it was hot that day, but I would let these dry overnight for probably about 24 hours. And then I just unmolded them. So I just took the styrofoam and the skull and the eyeball out, and I was pleasantly surprised with these first 3. Again, I thought they looked pretty good. The 4th one, still wasn't sure about. And then I needed a face on my ghost. So I went ahead and took a little, it looked like a little makeup brush, but it came in a paint pack. And I just dipped that in some black acrylic paint and just did that to these first 3 ghosts, the smallest of the 3 ghosts. And I think that worked out perfectly for those ghosts. And I think they turned out really cute like that. Again, the 4th ghost, I totally messed the face up. I thought I wasn't going to make the eyes big enough, and then I made them too far apart, and then I tried to fix them with a regular paintbrush, and it just looked really sloppy. So I just my fault, messed up the 4th one. I think I could have made it work better, but it just wasn't vibing. So the 4th one, not so much, but the rest of them turned out really cute. They give a vintage antique-y vibe to some Halloween decor, and I love how they turned out. So they are perfect for Halloween. For this last DIY, I picked up one of these sun hats from Dollar Tree for $3. They were sold around summertime, but my Dollar Tree still had a bunch out. So I went ahead and grabbed one, and I'm gonna make it a witch's hat. So to do that, I'm gonna use this big birthday hat. I just removed the garland around the top and the bottom of it, and then I'm gonna place it on top of the hat, just where your head would be at. It just smushes right down into place. And then to make the birthday hat match the rest of the hat, I'm gonna use some twine. I just started at the top of the cone, used a little bit of hot glue to secure it down, and then wrapped the twine all the way around the cone. And I hot glued as I was going around the cone. So that way it wouldn't separate from the cone and you wouldn't see that blue as much. And then I went ahead, and as I was halfway through, I wanted to go ahead and hot glue the cone down into place so that way it wouldn't come up and the shape would be right. And then I just continued to wrap the twine around the cone until I got all the way to the bottom. I used about 1.5 things of twine to cover this cone. I think I could have used probably 1 thing of twine, but I left the cone blue, and I think I should have painted it white or black or something, just so that way you couldn't see it through. Now, to add an extra special touch, I am going to use this wired twine that I had from Dollar Tree, and I just attached a piece to the top of the hat. And then I'm going to add this cute little spider ring. I wish I had a little bit bigger of a spider, but all I had was this spider ring, so I just cut the ring part off and hot glued it to the piece of twine, so it looks like the spider wrapped the hat with the twine and made it a witch's hat. I just think it turned out really cute like this. I think it gives that cottage core witchy Halloween vibe, and I just love that vibe this year. So I think it is perfect for the Halloween season, and I love how it turned out. Thank you guys so much for watching today. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a black cat emoji down in the comments below if you made it to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.